Good morning. This is Lars Olson, and this is today's Quiet Echo. A man bought a roll of duct tape from me yesterday, the wide silver kind. He was patching the split seat on his fishing boat, and he held the roll up like it might just solve every last problem he had ever had. Which, if you have ever owned a boat, it very nearly does. Now, I have sold 10,000 rolls of the stuff over the years. And I will be honest, I never once stopped to wonder where it came from. But then, a while back, I read the story, and now I cannot ring up a single roll without thinking about a woman named Vesta Stoudt. Back in 1943, Vesta Stoudt was a mother of 8, living in Illinois, with 2 of her own boys off serving in the Navy, and she took a job at an ordnance plant packing ammunition. Her work was to seal up the boxes of rifle cartridges. Now, back then, those boxes were closed with a thin little paper tape, with a tab you were supposed to pull to get the box open in a hurry. And standing there on the line, day after day, she noticed something the men who had designed the box never did. The tabs tore off, all the time, and what it meant was this: a soldier, pinned down somewhere out in the Pacific, with the enemy closing in on him, would be clawing at a waxed box with his own fingernails and his teeth, just trying to get at the cartridges which might save his life, while the seconds ran right on out. Now, she was a packer. Nobody had asked her for her opinion on anything. But her hands were on the box 8 hours a day, and she could see the flaw just as plain as morning. So she worked out a fix, a strong cloth tape, waterproof, one a man could tear clean through with his bare hands, and she took it to her supervisors, and they told her no. Now, here is the spot where just about anybody else would have let the whole thing go. She was one factory worker in a country at war. Who was she to go arguing with the men who ran the plant? But she had 2 sons out there in it, and she simply could not unsee the box. She went and did the one thing almost nobody ever does. She went over their heads, all the way over. She sat herself down at her own kitchen table, and she wrote a letter, in her own hand, to the President of the United States, to Franklin Roosevelt himself. And because she was a practical woman, and not a fancy one, she drew the man diagrams. And here is the part I still can hardly believe. He read it. Roosevelt sent her letter along to the War Production Board, and the board approved it. They handed it off to a company skilled in tape, and within a few months, the Army had it. This tough cloth tape a soldier could rip with his hands and slap onto just about anything. They took to calling it 100-mile-an-hour tape, because it would hold at any speed and fix nearly everything. And when the war was finally over, it came home. It turned silver. And it went right into the junk drawer in your kitchen and onto my shelf. I think about Vesta Stoudt more than a hardware man probably ought to. And here is why. The fix did not come floating down from up on top. It came up from the bottom, from the one single person who was actually touching the problem with her own 2 hands. The engineers who drew up the box, they were smart men. But they were not the ones standing at the line, with the tape tearing apart in their fingers, thinking about their own boys somewhere overseas. She was. The knowledge was in her hands, not in anybody's memo. And you know, the whole plant very nearly lost it. Very nearly threw it clean away, the day her bosses said no. If she had been just a little bit less stubborn, a little more willing to stay quiet and stay in her place, the best idea of the whole war effort would have died right there on the factory floor, and not one soul would have ever known what got missed. The good idea, and the person nobody would listen to, were the very same person. And I will tell you, in my experience, they almost always are. And here is a small thing I love about the story. As a man who sells the stuff, she was not trying to invent a wonder. She was trying to fix one box, so one boy could get it open in time. She had no idea she was making the thing which would one day hold together your bumper, your ductwork, your kid's hockey stick, and half the county fair. The big invention was never the goal. It was one soldier, one box. And here is how most of the good ones come. Nobody sets out to change the world. Somebody just refuses to let one small wrong thing stand. I try hard to remember her. Whenever somebody at my counter starts up a sentence with, "Now this is probably a dumb question, but," because the person standing closest to the work is very often the one who says exactly it. The new hire who sees the thing everybody else quit seeing years ago. The young one who asks why on earth we do it the hard way. 9 times out of 10, the dumb question is the whole entire answer, just wearing an apology. If you happen to be the boss, in a shop, or a plant, or a family, then you be a Roosevelt. Read the letter from the person with the tape in her hands. And if you happen to be the packer, the one nobody thought to ask, the one who sees the flaw just as plain as day, then do not you let them talk you out of it. Draw the diagram. Send the letter. The single most useful thing in my whole store began its life as a dumb question a worried mother would not stop asking. Look what it holds together now. The front porch is open. What is a fix you saw come up from the floor from the person nobody thought to ask? Come and tell us. And if we get something wrong, tell us, and we will run the correction. The readers of the Cedar Valley News are gathering to share their stories and keep company with respect and no party lines. Come sit with us. I will put the link in the show notes. This is Lars Olson, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley News series, written by Evan Swenson, publisher, and Claude Marshall, a developmental editor. While the town of Cedar Valley is fictional, Vesta Stoudt was real. A factory worker and mother in Illinois with 2 sons in the Navy, she inspected and packed ammunition at an ordnance plant during the Second World War, and grew alarmed at how easily the paper tape sealing the boxes tore, slowing soldiers trying to open them under fire. After her supervisors declined to act, she wrote to President Franklin Roosevelt on February 10, 1943, proposing a durable, waterproof cloth tape and enclosing her own diagrams. Roosevelt forwarded her letter to the War Production Board, which approved the idea and had it produced. The result is widely regarded as the origin of duct tape. Sources include the historical record of Johnson & Johnson, the company whose division manufactured the early tape.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.